States, Canada, and Tokyo, Japan. This is the Rich Stevens Radio Network.
Well, hey, what's going on? I'm Rich Stevens. Thank you for being here right now, or whenever you're listening. I appreciate it. Maybe you're listening in a different time than the normal time, which is 9 o'clock when we're live right now. 200 million people in the path of that winter blast. It's getting nasty for some people. There's already, I think, 4 dead. Again, like I said yesterday, if you don't have to be out in this kind of weather, why would you be out? The public impeachment hearings, meaning we're going to see it on TV, starts in about an hour from right now, 10 a.m. I'm guessing it's going to be on every network. Everybody's going to carry this. You know, the thing that's so weird about this is the same people that testified behind closed doors is now coming back to testify in front of the cameras so we get to see. I would have liked to see the first one. I don't know about you. The Supreme Court says Sandy Hook families from that awful tragedy there can, in fact, sue the gun maker. And the Supreme Court also hears arguments in the DACA case. And Disney Plus, had major technical issues after their big launch yesterday. And again, hi, I'm Rich Stevens. Thanks for being here. So it looked yesterday that the Supreme Court was leaning towards siding with the Trump administration. Their plan to end DACA, the program that allows about 800,000 undocumented young immigrants to reside and work here in the United States without being deported. Now, for about almost 2 hours, a full courthouse, including some that possibly faced deportation, heard some of the court's conservative justices note the Department of Homeland Security's reasoning for pushing to an end Deferred Action for Childhood Arrivals program, which is known as DACA. Now, the Associate Justice Neil Gorsuch said that the court has taken into consideration that effects of ending DACA would in fact have on some communities and employers, saying the sympathetic facts of the case speak to all of us. And then Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg said that the decision to halt DACA should be based on the White House's shaky claim that it's illegal. And she said their more likely reason is we don't like DACA and we're taking responsibility for that instead of trying to put the blame on the law. Now, ending DACA, a lot of people say, and I to be honest with you, well, let me just tell you, a lot of people say it's unnecessarily cruel and very unreasonable to end it. But then on the other hand, these people are not U.S. citizens, but they benefit from our laws and government and health insurance. So again, I'm not sure which way I lean on this, to be honest with you. I think I'm going to lean to the right with getting rid of DACA. I don't know necessarily that it's a good idea to deport these 800,000 people, but here's the thing. These people that have lived here and raised families, some of them, I get it, I understand. But they're not U.S. citizens. So if they become citizens, that might be an entirely different thing. Here's the thing. The Supreme Court is not going to make a decision until next summer. So there's plenty of time for all this to go, through the hubbub and whatever it is. And, of course, next year's the presidential election, so, we'll see what happens. The gun industry is trying to stop a lawsuit filed by the families of the victims of Sandy Hook Elementary School, that shooting, that tragedy. It was turned down on Tuesday by the Supreme Court. Now, with that decision, a previous ruling from the Connecticut Supreme Court is going to stand, and they said that the makers of the Bushmaster AR-15 style semi-auto rifle can, in fact, be taken to court and possibly be held responsible for that 2012 mass shooting in Newtown, Connecticut. Now, the suit was filed by the estates of 9 victims who were murdered by Adam Lanza. He used a high-powered rifle, which was manufactured by Remington Arms, during that shooting spree that killed 28, including 20 young children. So the big question here is, should the weapons makers, the people that are making these guns, be held responsible if somebody uses the gun to kill people? I mean, this is going to have a tremendous effect on the gun industry. But here's the thing. The gun makers are not the ones killing people. The gun The bullets that come out of the gun pulled by the trigger pulled by a human being, that's who kills people. Because if this goes through and say a Ford truck kills somebody in a lawsuit, kills somebody on the highway, then that means that that family should technically be able to go after Ford to sue them as well as the driver. You see, every one of these things, no matter what it is, has consequences. So, you know, these things, you got to think these things out. By the way, speaking of, I'm so excited. I'm stumbling on my words here. Forgive me. This is the time of year that it's so hard to be on a weight loss program. You don't have to tell me. I know because I'm doing it. The good thing is I'm not tempted for things. But then I'm going to tell you about something right now that's going to tempt me. It's probably going to tempt you. Oreo has come out with a new chocolate cream-filled egg for the holidays. Now, the eggs are filled with the Oreo cookies, vanilla cream, and little chocolate cookie bits. You can only buy them at Walmart. They're about $3.50 a package. They're going to sell out quick. I'm not buying any, but if you buy them, please just let me know how they are. I'm just curious to know. I won't be touching them. I'm doing too good on my weight loss here. So here's something that is going to start a tremendous controversy, and it shouldn't. And it's always about color. And I'm not talking about what you think I'm talking about. I'm talking about Sephora. They now have color-coded baskets. This is actually a really good idea. Now, they started this in Europe, and they're going to bring it here to the United States, maybe in time for the holiday. You see, the different color-coded baskets tell the employees in the store whether you need help or you just shop it on your own. So you grab a red basket if you need some help, and if you don't, you take a black one. Now, the baskets are apparently a big hit all over social media. Users are calling it a great idea to help awkward situations. And again, right now, it's not in the United States, but it's so successful in Europe that they might be bringing this here in time for Christmas shopping. But then on the other hand, it's already Christmas shopping. I mean, these sales, these people, these businesses are trying to jam it down our throats. It's just, I mean, it gets earlier and earlier. And then they keep saying this thing, and I got to be honest with you, I don't understand it. There's 6 less days for Christmas shopping this year. And I looked at the calendar, I still can't figure it out. And I know I might sound ignorant saying that, but call me a schmuck, that's fine. Maybe you could explain it to me. Go to the website, richstevenshow.com, hit the contact form and tell me. Because I want to know. There's a worker at a Firehouse Subs in South Carolina that's been fired because he wrote a racial slur on a customer's receipt where his name should have been. This was a Chinese student from college visiting a friend last week in South Carolina. He ordered a large steak sub from Firehouse Subs. He got the receipt. He noticed the cashier put Ching Chong where the name was supposed to be. Now, the student said the incident has left him shaken, and he's not been good since. The restaurant fired the worker immediately, reached out to the student to make things right. There's pending litigation on this. I mean, you got to think about things like this. If I went to a place like that and they wrote tall Jewish guy, I don't think I'd be offended by that. Now, if they said, the kike word, I probably would be, but to be honest with you, I probably wouldn't be because it's just a word. It doesn't mean anything. So, you got to go with to each his own. Harrods, the great department store in London, has been having special visits through their famous Christmas grotto to customers. If they spend more than $2,500 over the course of the year, you're allowed into this Christmas grotto. Now, this goes back for over 60 years, as kids are invited to come into the store and visit Santa in his grotto, have their picture taken. And up until last year, anyone was able to reserve a slot with Santa, but Harrods changed its policy because of the overwhelming demand. So this Christmas, they've changed it Customers who have spent more than $2,500 over the course of the year get to visit Santa. And of course, this has led to a lot of people slamming Harrods all over social media. And one says Harrods is behaving like the Grinch who stole Christmas. There's other Santas besides at Harrods. So why, it just, some people just look for ways to ruin things for other people. And you're spoiled. I mean, let's face it. All right, you want to get really spoiled? There's a company that has, I told you about the plant-based foods that's become a really big thing now, and everybody's, the first one I recall is Burger King. By the way, they're not running those commercials anymore, so either that means the plant-based Whopper is doing really well, or it really sucks in sales, and they just stopped running them, so I don't know. But this company has created an air-based meat. Air Protein is the name of the company. They announced this launch of an air-based meat substance, notice the word substance, that could be used to make burgers or turkey or chicken or pretty much any meat product you want it to be. Now, it looks like a protein powder, but only has elements that are found in the air. Carbon dioxide, oxygen, and nitrogen. You blend them together with water and mineral nutrients, and then you create the base, and then you make your meatballs or your chicken sandwich, whatever you want it to be. See, that's the thing I don't understand. They say it's enriched with vitamins, including a ton of vitamin B12, which is good for you. But these are vitamins that are primarily found in animal products, so it's difficult for many vegans and vegetarians to get enough of it in their diet. So this could be a good thing for them. But just think about this for a second. Carbon dioxide, it's found in the air, oxygen and nitrogen. You mix the powder with water and mineral nutrients to create the base. I think we're going a little bit overboard, but that's just me. There's a family in San Antonio, and they've been told, this happened yesterday, that they have to remove their Christmas decorations until it's closer to the holidays. I mean, is this crazy? They put up some reindeer, they put up a snowman, they put up a Santa, and they did it on November 1st. 12 days ago, or 13 days ago, whatever it is. So their HOA, and these HOAs, I tell you, I thought they were bad here in Florida, but apparently they're bad in Texas too. The commando Nazis, or the condo Nazis rather, that could have been a Freudian slip, I don't know. But their HOA sent them a letter to take down the decorations until it's close to the holiday. And the only problem is the family said that the letter didn't give a date. In the meantime, they're keeping their decorations up, hence challenging the HOA. So we'll see what, comes out of this next. There's a new class action lawsuit. This is a former worker at McDonald's, a female, and she's accusing McDonald's of culture of sexual harassment. She's from Michigan. She says a male manager at the restaurant routinely grabbed her top and backside and kept propositioning her for sex, and she says the chain did nothing to prevent the harassment. Now, 50 women who have worked at the same location could join in the $5 million class action suit if, in fact, the judge recognizes it and lets it go forward. Now, lawyers representing the workers say that more than 50 claims and charges of harassment of female employees are, in fact, pending against McDonald's in the court system and the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission as well. So it's going to be one of these things that it's all up to the judge. Speaking of the judge, you can't make up this stuff that happens for the last 3 years and keeps happening with President Trump. There's the star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame, and it was attacked again. I think the star needs Secret Service protection so nobody can do this. There's a video that's circling around social media. You could see the guy walk up to the star, actually it was a woman, reach into her bag and pull out a can of white spray paint, and then she coated the star and then took off. The thing that she didn't realize is it was a matter of 30 minutes before the star got cleaned up. It's back to normal. But the star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame has been the target of a bunch of attacks since 2016 when he won the election. Can't we just move on? Here's the thing that I was thinking about last night. What are the people on the left, the Adam Schiffs of the world, the Nancy Pelosi's of the world, what are these people going to do next year when Donald Trump is reelected for another 4 years in office as president of the United States? Their heads are going to explode. And the visual that I get in my mind is you remember when Hillary lost and they showed those people in the crowd with tears coming down their face and they were hysterical crying? I think that's what's going to happen. I mean, they're not going to be able to handle that. And then I think of Jack Nicholson. You can't handle the truth. That wasn't a good Jack Nicholson impersonation. It wasn't meant to be, but you get the idea. If you were looking forward to binge watching The Mandalorian, you might want to wait a couple days, because yesterday's launch of Disney Plus streaming, it was they had a lot of technical glitches. Thousands upon thousands of users have not been able to download the app, and then Disney says it's due because of overwhelming demand, and they promise to get things fixed as soon as possible. Also, the service will not launch in Puerto Rico for another week, even though it's supposed to be available in the entire United States today. Here's the thing. This is Disney. Disney's a huge company. They had a lot of time to work out the bugs. They had people beta testing this, and then they come to the launch day, and then they have all these problems. I mean, does Disney really care, or do they just want the money? And a lot of people are getting the free trials or free subscription for a year. And those people are complaining too. You're getting it free. What the hell are you complaining for? You know that the book about Donald Trump that's written by Anonymous? It's called A Warning About the Trump Administration. The warning is that Donald Trump could refuse to leave the presidency if he's impeached or defeated in the 2020 election. And this anonymous this anonymous person writes, it could be a lawyer, he will not exit quietly or easily. And he adds, it is why at many turns he suggests coups are afoot and a civil war is in the offing. He's already seeded that narrative for his followers, a narrative that could end tragically. I mean, give me a break. This guy doesn't even, or girl, won't even sign their name to the book. You can't get more fake news than this kind of crap. Somebody who doesn't even have enough. I mean, if you are going to make allegations like this, if you're going to write a book like this, at least put your picture on the book and tell us who you are. So I guarantee you this is going to turn out to be more fake news, and it's going to be a lot of crap. And God knows who wrote the book, but who cares? Here's a story that I can relate to. And restaurants do this. You know, they let you try a little bit of wine before you buy the whole bottle. Well, this doesn't mean that you can extend that policy into other places because you're not supposed to be doing this. So there's a guy goes into a grocery store. This happened in Thailand just a few days ago. He went to buy some wine, and the security cameras caught him opening 9 different bottles of wine, taking sips before he finally settled on which wine he wanted to buy. It was white wine from Argentina, if you want to know. He paid for that wine and left before the store realized what he'd done, and then they called the cops. Now they're trying to track him down. All in all, the store says he tasted about $70 worth of wine. And this reminded me of my friend Victor from New York, from Yonkers. And we used to always hang out, and there was one time we went to Pathmark, 3 o'clock in the morning. And so we drove up there. It was very close to where we lived. And we drove up there, and Victor had this system that I was never aware of before. What we did is we first went down to aisle 1, which is the dairy, and he grabs a container of milk. Now, at this point, I'm thinking he's buying a container of milk. We go to the next aisle where they have those Entenmann cookies, and he picks up a thing of chocolate chip cookies, and he opens the box, he starts eating the cookies. I'm fine with that. I see people doing that all the time. Then he opens the milk and he takes some sip. He says, "You want some cookies?" I said, "No, I'm good." And he's eating the box of cookies and he keeps drinking the milk. So we get down to the fourth aisle and he puts down the container of milk on the shelf and he puts the cookies down right beside it. And then we keep walking. I go, "What are you doing?" He says, "I'm finished with the cookies and there's no more milk." I said, "Well, aren't you going to pay for that?" He says, "Why would I pay for it?" Now, inside of me, I was thinking, oh my God, I can't believe he's doing this. Outside, I was laughing because it was actually pretty funny, but at the same time, I just couldn't believe he was doing it. Then it made me wonder how many other people do things like this. But listen, so we went down a few more aisles and he grabs a package of pepperoni and he opens it and he starts eating it. And then we go to the refrigerated case. He grabs a bottle of Coca-Cola, opens it, and he's drinking the Coca-Cola and he's eating the pepperoni. I say, "Vic, are you going to put this stuff back on the shelf when you're finished with it too?" He says, "Of course." And he did. It was the first time I'd ever seen anybody do anything like this. And I was just, I'm thinking about it now. When I heard about this guy tasting the wine in the store, I thought of my friend Vic. So, there you go. There's a school in Maine, and they just marked their 43rd anniversary of putting away an unwrapped Twinkie. The Hostess Twinkies? They've had it on display in the science department since 1976. Now, what they did is they took it out of its wrapper. This was a science teacher that did this, and he wanted to teach kids about food preservatives, and it's been on display since 1976. Now, apparently the color has faded a little bit to gray, but it's hard as a rock, and its shape and the size are exactly the same. No mold, no rotting, no nothing. And the funny thing is, it's really disgusting if you think about it. Mold and bacteria won't get on it, so that should tell you what it is. This reminded me of the Seinfeld episode. Remember when, I can't remember, Mr. Peterman, when Mr. Peterman bought a piece of wedding cake from some king in England or something from like 100 years ago or something, and Elaine found it in the refrigerator and she just thought it was a piece of cake, started eating it. It was like 100 years old since I thought about this. But, Hostess says that Twinkies actually have a shelf life of 65 days, and then you're not supposed to eat them after that. So, speaking of food, Popeyes, is all over the map now with this chicken sandwich and then that cake I told you, and pie I told you about yesterday. There's a Popeyes employee that was caught making these chicken sandwiches on top of a garbage can. And the people in the store noticed that the employee behind the counter was putting together as many sandwiches as he could, but the problem is he was using a tray that was resting on top of an open garbage can. See, they don't have enough counter space, and there's such high demand for these sandwiches that the owner said when he saw this employee who he just hired using the garbage can, he immediately ordered another table to put in the back, which they have in the store late yesterday afternoon. But I mean, this is the kind of stuff that especially when you can see in the restaurant, that's pretty gross. And speaking of gross and just unbelievable, there's two fast food workers. This is in North Carolina. They were both fired because one of them refused to serve a police officer who came in uniform. This guy's an Army vet and a cop, went into this food, it's a chain restaurant, but was denied service by the cashier. Then the restaurant apologized to the cop, fired the worker on the spot, and the manager that was on duty at the time. Good thing they took, swift action very quickly. And speaking of cops, there's a 56-year-old police officer who claims he was humiliated at the New York Police Department because his commanders thought he was too old for the job. Now he's suing for $7 million because of age discrimination. He's a decorated detective He actually worked on Mayor de Blasio's security detail before he retired this year. He said that didn't matter to his boss. His supervisor referred to him as a hairbag behind his back. Now, the lawsuit says a hairbag is an older cop, a burned-out cop who doesn't want to do anything and doesn't care anymore. Now, lawyers for the city said the term simply refers to a longtime cop's uniform being so old it's fuzzy from use. They say it's simply used to describe police veterans who know the job well. Give me a break. Now, according to the lawsuit, the officer that's suing says he was given grossly inappropriate and demeaning assignments. He was made to work a city hall security booth. He had to start wearing a uniform instead of the suits detectives usually wear. And when he was asked to use the subway instead of a police car, he was switched to night duty and was passed over for a promotion in favor of younger detectives. And he felt that he was kind of pushed off the edge into retiring. That's why they got the lawsuit. I hope he wins. Again, I point back to the world we're in today. And this is not necessarily a politically correct thing here. But the problem you have in New York City is the mayor does not support the police department. Hence, the police department can't stand the mayor. But the mayor has to be protected by detectives and uniform, suited, plain clothes and uniform, wherever he goes. And that's around the clock. I remember when Ed Koch came to the radio station when I was working at WPLJ in New York, and he had 4 cops that came in to the radio station with him. And it was just, very friendly and everything. But Ed Koch was good to the cops. Mayor Dinkins, who sucked, was even good to the cops. But this de Blasio has got it out for the cops. And when you depend on cops to protect your life, now the cops are not going to let anything happen to them because they're smarter than that. But you got a guy that's sitting, in Gracie Mansion, and he doesn't support his police officers. And that's not a good thing. Not good at all. This plane that tried to land yesterday at Chicago's O'Hare International that slid off the runway, they said it could have been prevented had the flight just diverted, but they decided to come in anyway. Again, as I told you yesterday, none of the 38 passengers and 3 crew members on the flight from Greensboro, North Carolina, were hurt, thank God. But the city's aviation department says more than 500 flights in and out of the airport were canceled, so they're doing an investigation as to why this particular flight was not canceled. Oh, and there's this 20-year-old gymnast in Connecticut. Her name is Melanie Coleman. You might have heard the name. She died over the weekend during a practice at Southern Connecticut State University. Now, the school says the 20-year-old was a level 10 gymnast. That's the best. The USA Gymnastics Junior Olympics program says it's top level. She fell, and then doctors determined she had suffered a serious spinal cord injury, and she died, 20 years old. How sad is that? So there's been a GoFundMe campaign set up for the family. So far, they've raised about $50,000 as of this morning when I looked. But my God, I mean, life is so precious, and you just really gotta take advantage of what and who you have now. Please. All right, that's it for me. Thank you for listening to The Rich Stevens Show. Get in touch, richstevenshow.com, and you can click the contact page, or you can just read my blog. There's plenty of stuff, plenty of entertaining things to do there. By the way, The Rich Stevens Show is also available on Amazon Fire TV and Roku TV, and of course on the iHeartRadio app or wherever you're listening to right now, which is pretty obvious. So there you go. I'm done. Have a great Wednesday. I'm going to go watch TV now because the hearings are about to start. Have a great Wednesday. Thanks for listening. Bye-bye.